Caitlin, and this is Book Chats. And guess what? I finally finished a debut novel for 2016. I'm so excited, guys! As some of you know from watching my channel or following me on social media, I am really involved in and a big fan of the Debut Author Challenge, and I've done it for several years, and this year I wanted as many people as possible to do it with me. But then I was a total delinquent and didn't read any books for the 2016 Debut Author Challenge in January or February. But guess what? It's March, and I finally read one and completed one, and it's great, and I also have a huge stack of them waiting for me from the library that I need to finish. So I think March and April will be full of debuts, and I'm very excited. But this is going to be a review of the first one that I read, because one of the pledges I made was to actually review the books that I read on my channel for the Debut Author Challenge, and this one is Where Futures End by Parker Peavy House. This book is very high concept. It's a YA sci-fi kind of fantasy, and it's told in 5 pieces, so it's like almost like 5 short stories that have a little interlocking thread that goes through them. It reminded me in structure of Midwinter Blood and Cloud Atlas, although I really disliked Cloud Atlas and thought that this book was much better. A couple of the pieces of it reminded me a little bit in theme of Extras by Scott Westerfeld and Ready Player One, which I have not actually read yet, but based on descriptions of it and my having read the first chapter, I think that one of the sections is a little bit like it. Anyway, my thoughts on the book. Parker Peavy House really has skill. I liked that about the book. I actually several times took out my phone and took a picture of the book, quotes that I liked and wanted to keep but didn't have paper and pencil to write down, and so I'll have to go through and now write them down, but I felt like her use of language was wonderful, and kind of some of the ways that she said things was great. I also felt like each short story sketched its characters out almost immediately, and I almost immediately was connected to them. I had an idea who they were and what their motivations might be, and I was interested in reading about them. In fact, one of the things about it is that every time it switched to a new story, I was like, but I wanted to read more about that other person. She did a great job of ending each story in a place where you still wanted more, and I really felt like that was really well done. And I also felt like the place of each short story was like logically, so the way the story is told, it starts out like a couple years in the future, and then like 10 years in the future, and then like 30 years or 40 years in the future, and then like 80, and then like 100, something like that. So it's like each kind of interval is even greater in time between them. It like starts out like with short times between them, and then it gets longer. It's kind of all in a line, and I felt like each little story like logically seemed like could have come from that line of places, but was still distinct and different enough, and didn't seem like just a retread of what she'd previously been covering. And so I really liked that, and felt like she just did a really great job of sketching out in such a short kind of period of time the world that each section was in, and the kind of the changes and kind of some of the implications that were there. But again, I just want to keep thinking and discussing like the implications of some of the things in each of the worlds. And so now that I've said all those like really good things about the book, what I do have to say is, unfortunately, in the end, I felt like this kind of house of cards that Peavy House had constructed with each story kind of accelerating collapsed under its own weight. It was good and better and better, and then I got to the last little section. I was expecting it to be kind of tied up in a way that connected everything in a way that made sense, and that maybe said something even more profound, so that it was greater than the sum of its individual parts. Unfortunately, it didn't do that for me, and so this was a really great book, like a 4-star book all the way till the very end, and then it got knocked back to 3 stars. And I don't think that that is a reason not to read the book. I just think you should go in reading it for the short stories, not necessarily for the tying thread. Your mileage may vary, you may have a different opinion on that than I did. I just felt like it collapsed under its own weight at the end. And I don't know if that's because it's a new book, or if it's just, it was trying to be overambitious. A book that many people like and think is great, Cloud Atlas, I really despised. I felt like this was much better. And so maybe I just have a very odd way that I read ambitious novels. Although it didn't ultimately coalesce into kind of a single story for me, this book was worth it for each of those short stories and the way that the characters were characterized and the way that the worlds were drawn, and I would definitely consider reading something by Parker Peavy House in the future. And if you can get this book from your library or borrow it from a friend, you should definitely consider reading it. And that is it for my review. It's a 3-star book for me, but definitely a strong 3 stars. And I would love to hear below if any of you have read this book, Where Futures End by Parker Peavy House, but also how many of you have read debuts this year, what debuts were they, and please link me below to any reviews you may have written for them. I will monitor and make sure that comments with links in them do not get held up in my queue of making sure it's not spam. So don't worry, if you don't see it post right away, I will go through and make sure it gets posted. But I would love to hear what you guys are reading, what you're enjoying, and if you've had good debuts or meh debuts or blah debuts so far this year. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!